In this video, I'm going to show you how you can leverage somebody else's soapbox. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, a bit of history. Years ago, before corrugated cardboard became the norm for large boxes to pack things in, most products came from the wholesaler to the retailer packed in wooden cases. And in particular, soap was a very popular item to be shipped in this way. And so every large sort of wooden packing case got the nickname of being a soapbox. Well, politicians and other people who wanted to make a public speech or an impromptu public speech found these very useful for rising above the crowd and for making themselves heard, as you can see in this photograph here. You can see the politician in the middle there, and he's standing on a soapbox, presumably, or some sort of wooden box, which means that all the guys out there in the crowd can hear what he has to say, and so he can make himself be heard above the crowd. Now, the modern equivalent, and in particular the modern online equivalent, is guest posting. Now, guest posting means posting an article on somebody else's blog for free, in return for a link to your blog and a brief bio, a brief bit of information about you, about your organization, about your blog. And it has several advantages. First and foremost, if it's a popular blog, then your post is going to get noticed and it's going to get read. So you can find that lots of people who read this blog will now know about you because they've discovered you on this other blog. And also, by giving you a platform, the blog owner is giving you an endorsement as well. So if you can get a guest posting on a very popular authoritative blog, then by associating yourself with that blog, some of that authority is going to rub off onto you. There are, of course, some disadvantages to guest posting. First and foremost is it takes time to get accepted. So if you want to get the word out in a hurry, then guest posting is definitely not the way to do it because it does take some time. Plus, you have to have some sort of following in order for other blog owners to want to be associated with you. So you need to have a blog, you need to be getting some traffic to it, you need to have plenty of posts on it already so that when you approach a blog owner, they're going to look at your blog and think, yes, this guy or this girl is the sort of person that I want to be associated with, and will give him or her the opportunity to put an article on my blog. So that's sort of how it works. So let me give you 8 tips for effective guest posting. Now, tip number 1 is, like I was just saying, you have to have a decent number of well-written posts on your own blog, because other blog owners will want to satisfy themselves that you know what you're talking about and that you're a good writer. So that's the first thing that you need to have. You need to have all that before you start approaching any other blog owner. Tip number 2 is you want to draw up a list of highly ranked, high traffic blogs that are in your niche. So you want to do a search in Google or one of the other search engines for blogs in your niche, and you want to read through them. You want to look at what they've got on there. You want to see that they're the sort of blogs that you would like to be associated with, and then draw up a list. And once you've got your list drawn up, you want to start at the bottom of the list and work your way up to the top. Now, the reason that I say this is if you rank the list in order, obviously the blog that you really want to get your guest post on is going to be at the top. But the chances of you actually approaching somebody first time out of the blue and being accepted are fairly low. So if you start at the bottom of the list with a blog that you'd like to be on, but it's no big deal if they turn you down, you can use that as a learning experience. So you get in touch with that blog owner. They say no, you find out why, and then you can change your approach slightly when you go to the next person who's the second from the bottom of the list, and then you work your way up, and you'll probably be accepted by some other blogs along the way, so that when you actually get to the top of the list, to the blog that you really want to have the guest post on, you've got it all worked out. You know how to approach the person. You've got a list of blogs where you've already made guest posts. You've got plenty of posts on your own blog and so on. So by the time you get to the top of the list, you really are an expert in getting guest posts. Okay, tip number 3 is to contact the blog owner and ask if they accept guest postings. Now, don't just assume that they do, just because they may have posts by other people on their blog. They could perhaps get some of their friends to make posts, or there might be more than one person who's involved in the blog. So don't just assume because there are multiple authors on a blog that they accept guest posts, because that might not be the case. Okay, tip number 4, and this is probably the most important one, is never, and I put it in capital letters here, never send an unsolicited guest post. What you want to do first off is to ask the blog owner what they're looking for. So ask what they're looking for after they've told you, yes, we accept guest posts. Ask what they're looking for and then write about that. You should also get a list of keywords from the blog owner, because after all, this is going to be something that they're going to have on their blog. They want the traffic and they want the keywords. So you want to get the list of keywords from the blog owner so that you can incorporate into your guest post. And you also want to find out how long they want the post to be. Some blogs have quite long articles on them. Some blogs have quite short articles. And you want to make sure that the article that you're going to write for them is going to fit their requirements. Tip number 5 is provide a couple of different versions of your guest post. So you want to rewrite it in a couple of different ways, because this gives the blog owner more choice. If they don't like one, they may use the other. And this increases your chances of getting published. Tip number 6 is stick around to respond to comments when your guest post gets published. So you don't just simply publish the post and then if there's any queries, if there's any comments, the blog owner has to respond to them, because he or she may not be as expert in the subject as you are. So you want to make sure that you're there so that if there's any feedback, you can answer it and not simply dump that onto the blog owner. And tip number 7 is don't publish the article anywhere else. And this includes your own blog. Because sadly, these days, duplicated content gets slapped down by Google, and it's not going to do you any favors, and it's certainly not going to do the blog owner any favors. So if you write an article and then you put it on your own blog as well, and neither of them show up in the search engines, it's not going to do either of you any favors. And finally, you want to thank the blog owner. Courtesy costs nothing, and it's very valuable indeed. So you can send them a thank you email, or you can send them a thank you e-card. And also something else that you can do is offer to reciprocate and publish a guest post on your own blog. After all, if the person who's writing the blog that you put the guest post on is a good writer and they've got a good following, then having a guest post from them on your blog is actually going to do you a lot of favors as well. So there you go. That's how you can leverage somebody else's virtual soapbox and be heard.